Welcome to Seize the Mains by Malhotra's IS Academy. I am Surbhi Sardana and this is season 3 of our daily answer writing initiative. This initiative runs in parallel with our website rajisacademy.com. On the website, in the mains answer writing section, as you can see in red here, click on it and this is what the screen will display. You will see the list of all the questions and answers that we have discussed till now on Seize the Mains. What you can do is, after this discussion, after watching the full discussion of the question and answer for today, you can go to our website. The link is there in the description. Click on the question for today, that is question number 124, and post your model answer or sample answer to it in the comment section under that question. In the next 48 hours, our team will evaluate your answers entirely free of cost. So the topic for today is population policy of India, or just population policy. So the latest population policy that we have is right now NPP of the year 2000, National Population Policy. So see, let's see what is the question for today. It says that according to statistics, India will surpass China as the most populous country of the world by 2023, that is next year. Does India need an updated and restrictive population policy? Express your views in this regard and answer in 250 words. So yes, let's look at this question. What is the demand of this question? You know, some statements in the questions, they try to erupt, they try to bring your emotions out, and controlling those emotions have to be used as a tool when you are approaching answer writing, especially in ethics, society, such topics. If you look at the question here, if you look at the first statement here, they say that according to statistics, India will surpass China as the most populous country of the world by 2023. So if you're somebody who's reading the statement for the first time, or if somebody reads it without looking at the second part of it, the first emotion that is generated is we are struggling with overpopulation. What are we doing? We are producing so many people and we do not have the resources available. So the first thing that we should do is we should put a restrictive policy in place. We should curb the reproductive rate. If you look at the first statement here, it says that according to statistics, India will surpass China as the most populous country of the world by 2023. So if you look just at this statement, the first emotion that is erupted is that overpopulation is something that we are dealing with. We will become the most populous country, so we need to control our population. That is the first emotion that is generated. But when you look at the second part of it, it requires some academic research. Does India need an updated and restrictive population policy? So it is directly asking you that, do we need an updated population policy that is restrictive in nature, that restricts couples to reproduce beyond a certain number of children? So express your views in this regard and answer in 250 words. So the question here revolves around that, should India come up with a new population policy which should be restrictive? That, do we need to control the fertility rates, or everything is just proper at this time? And to erupt your emotions, the first statement has been put in place and you have been asked to express your views in this regard. So your views can mean your personal views also, or some academic reviews. If you have gone through some newspaper articles, anything from your GS syllabus, the static part of it, and you understand on an academic basis that this should be the course forward for the policymakers of India, then write about it as your views. Answer in 250 words. So this is going to be a long answer. See, here you'll have to develop a strategy. The question is just within 1 or 2 lines. एक दो लाइन में आपका आंसर खत्म हो सकता है, but you have to write 250 words here. So you could be either in favor of having a restrictive population policy or against it. So whatever your views are, I always suggest that always give a balanced answer. Even if you're taking a stand, talk about the other side of the picture also in 1 to 2 lines. That gives a balanced stand to your answer, because you're aspiring for civil services, for bureaucracy, and you need to have balanced stance in your answers. Let's look at the structure that we'll have here. So the first statement talks about population or overpopulation in the country. So what we'll do is we'll start by paraphrasing the first statement itself, that what is the status of population in India. Our introduction will consist of what is the status of population in India. We'll talk about the United Nations World's Population Prospects of 2022. Then we'll talk about what has been given in the question, that India will overtake China. We have written about the exact population or the percentage of the world's population that we have in India, and here we are talking about our population, that we are currently in a demographic transition with a sizable proportion of the youth population. Then in the body paragraph 1, we'll talk that overpopulation causes a lot of problems like poverty, combating hunger and malnutrition. We'll come to this, and what are the explain the implications of overpopulation. And then in the second part of this, just take a stand. Are you against the population policy, against the new population policy that the examiner is asking you for, or are you in favor of it? So looking at the statistics, it appears that India is in dire need of an updated population policy. So yes, but take a stand against it. That is what we'll be doing, that India does not need a population policy, a restrictive population policy as of now. So here you will take a stand that why don't we need a population policy. In the body paragraph 2, we'll justify the stand. We'll give 5 points to justify our stand, that these 5 points justify the stand that India does not need a new population policy. Here is why. Then obviously you can suggest some way forward or some measures that can be brought to the present population policy or the policies associated with handling and managing population or human resources. You can talk about it, that still some steps are needed. Give these steps in point number 1, 2, 3, and then in the conclusion use your creativity to write about whatever you want to. So the union government, there are some issues associated with overpopulation. There is skewed population in the northern states as compared to the southern states. So talk about that, and in the way forward, in the conclusion, give a holistic solution, that not just controlling population but providing them skills, providing them jobs, providing them economic opportunities, controlling migration so that resources of one place are not stretched. That is going to be the way forward for a country like India in the coming times, when we become the most populous country of the world, and we already have one of the largest populations of the world. So that is how we'll frame this answer. So I hope the structure is clear, that what are we trying to do. So in the introduction, let's read out quickly, let's emphasize on the figures here, that what is the, with regards to first statement, what is the exact figure or percentage of population that India has. So with 1.4 billion people, India accounts for approximately 17.5% of the world's population. 1 in every 6 people on the planet lives in India. So that is your data point 1. Again, either you can skip this part or use this in a paraphrased way, that according to this report, this United Nations World Population Prospects WPP 2022, India will overtake China as the world's most populous country in 2023. So this has already been given in the question, but the report has not been given. So if the report is given, you don't have to write this line, but if you feel that you need to write about it, go about it, paraphrase it. India is currently in a demographic transition with a sizable proportion of the youth population. So that's your third line. Now this paragraph indicates that yes, there is a lot of population that India has. 17.5% of the entire world stays in India. So what are the implications of it? Rapid population growth makes eradicating poverty, combating hunger and malnutrition, and increasing the coverage of health and education systems difficult. So this is your line number 1. What does overpopulation or rapid population growth cause? So you're talking on an academic basis, that what can be the implications of it. So here you can very well stop your first part of body paragraph 1 very well here, but if you want to elaborate it, you can also add another line, that it challenges sustainable economic growth, social development and environmental protection. Then this these two lines, they are basically emphasizing on the side effects of having overpopulation or very fast population growth. Now after this we'll talk about the population policy that we have been talking about, or controlling fertility rates. So generally tell about that India was one of the first countries to introduce an official program of birth control intended to reduce the population growth, but till date, to this day, the relative population size remains an issue. So you can talk about that, yes, birth control programs have been carried out in India, they have been part of the population policies earlier, but still we are struggling with a relatively large number of people or population. So looking at the statistics, it appears that India is in dire need of an updated population policy. So here you have taken you've created a background, a very good background in just 4 to 5 lines of your introduction and body paragraph 1, that yes, it appears that India is in a need of an updated population policy, because even after having these plans we still have overpopulation in our country, the largest population of the world. So however, experts agree that at this juncture there is no requirement of a restrictive population control bill or any policy that enforces a fixed number of children a couple can have. Or in simple words you can write down that, but experts agree, but experts put an argument, or it can be argued. If you do not want to talk about experts because your views have been asked, just write down, but it can be very well justified that India is not in a need of a population policy as of now, that India is not in a need of a restrictive population policy. So just cut the chaos and just write down one simple line for yourself. Then this is because the goals of the latest population policy have been achieved. All this can be justified by the help of following points. So justify your stand that as per National Family Health Survey 5, India's TFR, total fertility ratio, it fell below 2.1. It is below the replacement level in many of the states, and the average also, that is below 2.1. So now we'll not be multiplying, we'll be just maintaining the population. So below that we do not want to go. Why don't we want to go? Because according to a report by Ministry of Statistics, the number of citizens over the age of 60, they have increased by 35.5%. that is a huge increase. That is from 7.6 crore in 2001 to around 10.3 crore in 2011, and according to the latest data they would have increased. So in this context we do not want India to move towards an aging population, as is seen in the case of many Western countries, European countries, and especially in the case of China and Japan, where they do not have young people because of restrictive population policy. So we do not want this to be happening in India, and if we want to plan our future, it has to be very well planned today in these times. So yes, TFR is already below 2.1 and the number of older people would be increasing in the coming times. So these 2 points justify that we do not need a restrictive population policy. Then again you have that small family norms, they create a high preference for male children, which impacts child sex ratio, something India cannot go back upon, because child sex ratio of India, though it is improving, but it is very low as compared to some good countries or some average countries also. So we cannot trample it, we cannot create a chaos here by introducing small family norms. The next one is that restrictions in form of stopping all government aid and subsidies to the family with more than prescribed number of children have great social cost. So what will you do to control your population? You will probably the government will tell it to the couples, or make a law that if you have more than 2 children, they will not be covered under the policies of the government. They will not have right to education, probably they'll not have right to having their midday meal schemes, or some things like that, because that is the case where that happened in China. After the first child, the second child was not even registered. So if that happens, if we come up with a restrictive population policy, it will have great social cost for a country like India, and that cannot be afforded by a democracy like India. Then restrictive policies have a bearing on reproductive rights of women. You cannot guide a woman when to reproduce, how to reproduce, how many children to bear. So yes, it is the personal rights. It is amongst the personal rights of women or of the couple largely. So it would lead to an increased cases of women abuse also, firstly because of child selection, the selection of child's sex, and it could also lead to increased cases of women abuse because many women would be subjected to forced sterilizations or abortions. So that is already a case that happens in many parts of the country on an alarming level. These cases would tend to increase. Now here you've justified your stand that India is not in the need of a restrictive population policy. What we can do is we can introduce some little changes to the present state to the present status of policies that we are currently implementing. So the first line that we'll write here is that while the need of an entirely restrictive population policy is low, there are some changes required with regards to the population scenario. The first one is there is a need to change the discourse of population policy from population control to ensure that demographic dividend is reaped. We just do not have to focus on population control, we also have to focus on reaping the demographic dividend. The second one is focus on management of aging population, not just increasing population. There is a lot of migration that is happening from northern states to southern states, and parents who are left behind, they are above the age of 60, so we need care schemes for old population. A lot of brain drain is also happening. Many people are leaving their India for abroad, for Western countries or Arabian countries, especially after the unemployment and the economic downturn that came after the COVID-19 pandemic. So people who are left behind, the parents or the grandparents, they would be getting older, and we need to focus on management of aging population, as the population over the age of 60 is projected to increase from 8% to nearly 20% in 2050. The last one is variation in the demographic composition of states needs to be taken into account. Some states, for example southern states, they have an aging population, but they have a lot of youth that has migrated to these states. These states already had TFR around 2.1 or lesser than that many years ago. So yes, they are suffering from this aging population. Northern states are comparatively younger, but they are having this problem of migration, youth migrating to other countries or other states. So National Family Health Survey reveals that women who have little access to health and education and those caught in the cycle of poverty produce more and more children. In fact, wherever the population is the number of states are overpopulated, or the TFR is higher than 2.1, even around 4. So these are the states which have a lot of poverty and lesser education when it comes to women. Women are lesser educated in these states. Also, the states with high population growth are also the ones with the lowest per capita availability of hospital beds. So this has to be checked, because we cannot address overgrowth of population or overpopulation as a whole on a national level unless we address the state level or regional level issues. The next one is your conclusion. In the conclusion, just write a way forward, just write another suggestion for the government. So the union government and states with a higher TFR should focus on overall social development instead of coercive population control measures. So this has to be your solution. They should provide an enabling environment in which couples voluntarily opt for and feel safe about limiting their family size. India's population comes with advantages and disadvantages both. That is true for any country. So it is highly imperative that we work upon economic planning that ensures skilled workforce, good jobs, agricultural productivity, etc. So this is something that India needs: higher agricultural productivity, good jobs and skilled workforce, and generating more employment opportunities in various parts of the country, so that at least whatever young people are there, they do not have to migrate to other parts of the country, and there is not a lot of burden on resources on just one part of the country. For example, if people are moving from northern areas to southern states, then there is a lot of pressure on the resources in the southern cities or the central or the cities in central India. So it is more important to avoid pressure on resources in just few mega cities that migration brings along with it. So yes, we've completely justified the answer. We have answered this question completely. The entire answer can be read on our website rajayesacademy.com. Go through the answer on the website, go through the model answer. go through it twice or thrice, and when you go through it for the fourth time, you will be able to understand all parts of it, and you will be able to write your own answer. The first answer, or if you have been writing continuously with us, I recommend that if you have good content in your brain, if you've done a lot of reading, then you should be able to write an answer, even if that is an incomplete answer that is taking 1 hour or 2 hours for you to write. Take out that time, because that will not just help you retain better for your prelims, but it will also shape you into an entirely new person, into an entirely better aspirant, which will help you crack the exam easily and at an earlier stage in your life. So that's all for today. Stay tuned to the channel, and I'll see you with another discussion tomorrow in Seize the Mains at 9 p.m.